Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about women and their evolving tefillah journey.
And why it is so hard for some of us to connect with tefillah today.
Welcome to the Mommy Light Squad podcast, where we talk about
everything women want to hear about,
which may get controversial,
but definitely inspirational, so stay tuned. All right, guys, so let's jump right into it. A few weeks ago, I was reading like an older edition of the Family First magazine, and I came across this article that I thought was super interesting. And the reason why is because it's so relatable to all us moms. And it was a lady writing in about how her tefillah journey has evolved over time and how she's embarrassed of how she's so not connected with Hashem through tefillah anymore. And so I started to think about myself, of course. The article went on, by the way, to talk about how she was prior to getting married and how kids obviously distracted her and how it's harder for her. But then she has her kids all in school now and she's still not making that time frame to set for tefillah.
So I just want to say also, I do want to add to this. It's like also when you're single and you're in shul and you're davening, I feel like you're able to focus and stay in shul and daven like the whole time, like Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah, right? But now thinking back to that time of like, how was I able to sit through the whole Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur davening? Because I haven't done it in so long.
Right.
So
our attention span is so different now.
Our attention span is different. We can't sit through things the same as we were able to
Right.
before. Because think about it. When was the last time you actually sit down and for
focus.
Hours straight? We went to the Yom Yin the other day and I couldn't even sit through the whole Yom Yin because I'm like, it's just like, I'm not used to sitting down and just like taking notes and sitting and focusing on for something for so long.
Right. Time to medicate yourself, Tikva. I'm joking. I'm totally joking. But yeah, 100%. We could all kind of relate to that. Maybe some more than others, right?
Right. But also tefillah has changed for me personally from when I was single, because in one way I was more focused.
Yeah.
But it actually was an evolution for me. It was like an evolving thing. It's always constantly changing depending on my time.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure you can relate to that. Like when I was single, I had time. I was able to say everything and I was able to focus.
Right.
And then once I got married, had my first was very difficult. And I remember at the time I was just saying brachot and I'm like, how do people have time to daven?
Exactly.
Like, how do people have time to say the whole thing? I don't have time for it.
Right. So what I found very interesting about this article was not that she was focusing on the fact that she has kids and she has a family now and it's too hard for her to daven. That's like a given, right? Like, I feel like that's a given. And a lot of moms will vent about that. It wasn't that. It was that she finally had all her kids out the door and she wasn't even going to work. So she had that time frame at home to connect with Hashem, and she still didn't do it. So she went on and on and on talking about how guilty she feels because I think she said she was a rabbi's wife or she was someone respected in the community. And if people knew that she didn't even take the time to daven and connect with Hashem, that's so embarrassing.
Well, I think tefillah is something that has to be worked on. And when you're not working on it for so long because you're busy with your kids or whatever, and this has to go also with people not with kids. Like if you're busy because you're in school and you don't have the time to daven, and and then you're finished school and you want to come back to davening every day, it's not something you've been working on for so many years.
But also there are people who are more natural at it. So there are people who thrive on it, and there are people who need it. It's their oxygen. Like my mom, it's her oxygen. She can't go a day without saying her.
But I'm curious if you asked her when she was young and she had little kids, and then would you see her constantly with a
I do remember her always with a sitter and a tehillim. But again, our generation changed because we have so many distractions now that I feel like if she were a mom today in 2023 with young kids, I don't know if she would do that. But
they didn't have technology. Your mom didn't have a smartphone on her when she was in the park watching her kids. She had a tehillim.
She had a tehillim, which is isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad.
It is really sad because we're so distracted.
Yeah. It's really sad. So
because we don't even think to bring a tehillim.
Yeah.
When was the last time you thought to bring a tehillim to a park?
By the way, it even bothers me when people bench on their phone. I don't know. It really bothers me.
Really?
I just don't like it. Yeah. I don't like when people daven mincha on their phone or shachar or anything on their phone. Just find a tangible sitter and daven.
Yeah.
Anyway, but going back to that article, because I thought it was wow. So many people wrote in a few issues later. People wrote in and said, "Oh my gosh, this is me too." Right. So a lot of people felt that this was relatable to them. I'm not talking about moms who were who had kids at home and everything. I'm talking about people who now have the time but are not creating the time because they just don't feel they're in it. They're not connected to tefillah.
Right. But I think it's also, again, something you have to work on. Let's say the bitachon chat is something that as I'm listening to the bitachon, daily bitachon, if you missed our other podcasts, we both actually listened to a daily bitachon chat, and it really has been changing our lives. But because I'm constantly listening to the bitachon chat and I'm constantly learning bitachon,
right,
it's improving it, right? So when you don't work on your tefillah and you're not constantly learning about the meaning of it, and I'm guilty of this 100%. I want to actually, I was thinking to myself the other day, I'm like, I want to take a course on Shemona Esrei again. I want to learn about it.
Remember we did that in like seminary?
Yeah.
We did that once upon a time.
Right, because that obviously you're able to relate more to it and connect more to it when you have courses on it, when you're learning about it.
Right.
We go to Shalom Bayis shir, we go to Chinuch shir, like we don't necessarily go on a thing on tefillah.
Right. So I also heard, and I think this is like, because we're hack people and we try to like give you guys as much information to make your life easier. And I think even with tefillah. So I actually watched a podcast with Charlene Amanoff who mentioned that tefillah doesn't necessarily have to be with a siddur and a tehillim in your hand. So why not just talk to him throughout the day? This is something I've been doing for years, and I'm sure a lot of moms have been doing this for years too.
That's my main source of tefillah right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And she was mentioning how just like talking to him when you're trying to find like a parking spot, or like anytime throughout the day, you're just like communicating verbally or even thinking about it.
It's also not only in your stressful moments, it's also in your
thankful moments.
Yeah. Every moment. It's like constantly involving Hashem in your life.
Yeah.
Like when you're putting the cookies in the oven, please Hashem, make sure they don't burn.
Yeah, exactly. And it happens to be that I have a journal. You know about my Thank You Hashem. It's really a Dear Diary journal, Dear Hashem journal. And so I have that already for, I don't even know how many years. So let's see. I have to do the math. It must be like 17, 18 years now.
Wow.
And I've been journaling, not every night, but as often as I can. And it's crazy to see that when you go back to like different parts of my life, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how I remember feeling so hurt in that situation, so upset, so whatever. And then I see how it unfolded and how Hashem helped me.
Can you quick tangent, but the cutest story? Can you just quickly throw in the story about Eliza?
Oh, all my kids.
All your kids. All your kids. Sorry,
I'm not sure if we're talking about the same story, but I do have a very powerful story. I remember like one night, as I was putting my kids to sleep, I said goodnight. They went to their rooms, whatever. And then I went to my room and I started journaling. I started writing. I always start with Dear Hashem, and I started writing. And one of my kids came in and she saw me writing, and all of a sudden she showed me her book, and I had no idea that she had a Thank You Hashem book. So I'm like, oh my gosh, Eliza, this is so nice. It's so beautiful. And I started going through it with her, and she said it was private, whatever. So I thought it was so cute. She drew in it, and I made it a big deal. And then my other son from the other room heard, and he came out and he's like, what do you mean? I also have one. And he showed me his journal. And then my older son was showing me his, and I thought it was so nice to know that all my kids had a Thank You Hashem journal. And this is what we talk about, modeling behavior, because I never told them to have one, but they just saw me doing it. I'd say
that's one of the main ways of parenting is through modeling, behavior. Like your kids see what you do and they copy it.
Right.
You know?
And I thought that
like imagine you told them to do that. How likely would they be to actually go through and follow through and do it?
Right.
It's because they saw you do that. Okay, sorry, that was a total side point, but it was I felt like it was
very nice. So any way you can connect with Hashem, you do you. Like however way you feel like you can connect is, but it doesn't negate. I think like people say that loosely in 2023, and it doesn't negate actual tefillah. What do you think?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think there is a value and power to tefillah.
Right.
The words written have a huge like they have huge significance and they have huge value, and it connects us.
Totally.
But it's also, I think it comes down to the fact of also comes down to learning it, because I remember, let's say I don't remember which one it was. One of the brachot. So I asked a teacher when I was in high school. Actually, I'm like, am I allowed to just put in my own tefillah at the end of Shemona Esrei, of like all my bakashot and all that? And she goes, you can, but most of the tefillot have everything that you're asking for already in it. Mm-hmm. You just have to know what you're asking for. If you actually understand the meaning of every tefillah in Shemona Esrei, you're already asking for 90% of the things that you're going to be asking for at the end of the
Wow.
Shemon Esrei.
Powerful.
She's like, you just have to know what you're asking for.
Yeah.
So that's also an interesting.
Just like educating yourself.
Yeah.
And also, I was in a shir on a Shabbos. This past Shabbos, I went to a shir. Rabbi Roshenshad was talking, and he was saying that in order to prep yourself for Rosh Hashanah, the men have slichos, and the women don't really have anything. So he's like, prep yourself by reading in the machzor and knowing it ahead of time. We read it every year. I told Tikva this, and she's like, but we read it every year. We know it. But still, I feel like it refreshes your mindset. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
Going in and knowing what you're coming in for. I also think it's really cool that I heard on the Michael Safdie that we keep talking about. We keep referencing him because it's by far the most amazing chat I've ever been on. It's a bitachon chat. And he was saying that the highest level of tshuva is when you do tshuva when you're happy. So what does that mean? Like, I didn't know this. I think this is very new to me, but your Yetzer Hara cannot come and attack you when you're at a happy state. If you're happy, your Yetzer Hara is non-existent. Isn't that cool?
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah,
because he's trying to get at you.
Right.
So when you do, you don't have to be a bad guy to do tshuva. You can do tshuva all the time, and you could do it in your happiest state. But that's the highest form. Why? Because it's obvious for us to want to do tshuva when we're at our lowest form and we need Hashem to call out to. Right. But it's harder when we see all the glory and the goodness.
And you're in a happy state and everything's going well, and to reach out to Hashem and be like,
right,
this is what I did wrong.
Exactly. It's very amazing. And let's talk about bringing kids to shul.
Yeah, so this is another topic that I've always felt passionately about. I think it has to do with the fact that I grew up in a shul in Baltimore, or HaMizrach, and they did not allow talking. And you know, because you were there for a little bit, they did not tolerate talking in shul, having kids.
Hold on a second. None of the kids came to shul at all, ever.
They had a kids program, and if there was any noise, the whole shul would stop and look at them. I'm telling you.
Really?
Like, you would not dare talk. I don't know how it is now, but back then, you would not talk, and you were embarrassed if like a little kid started talking in shul, because everyone would be like
really,
yeah. And there's actually like a lot of power in this.
Yeah.
There was I don't remember the actual details of the story, but there is a story about shul in somewhere in I think it was like Poland or Russia. I think it was Poland, and they did not allow talking in the shul. Fast forward, there's a war, and apparently there's like bombings all around. And the only place that wasn't bombed was the shul, where everyone was actually hiding in, because they needed to protect themselves, because they did not talk in shul. It's a very important, it's very powerful. And so then we have it here in LA a lot, and I'm sure it's everywhere, where there's a lot of talking, of women talking, or kids talking, people bringing their kids to shul, and the kids making noise, babies crying. A woman's job is not to be in shul. I'm sorry, I have to say it, and I'm going to say it loud and clear. A woman's job, it's not her responsibility to be in shul.
Okay, so this is obviously the triggering part of our podcast. So what I want to say is, I agree. However, I want to tell you that I actually listened to another podcast by Peace, Love, and Cares on the Meaningful Minute, or Yaakov Langer. Yeah, it was with Yaakov Langer. And he asked what was her most, I'm probably butchering this, but what's her most important mitzvah? Like, you know how he asked that, what's your like most meaningful mitzvah? And she said tefillah in a shul. She said she has to go to a shul. So she's like, oh, the obvious question
that was
is
me.
like...
That was me.
Right. So the obvious question is, what does she do? She has a bunch of kids. What does she do? She says it is so important for her that she will hire help at home. Okay. So she will get a babysitter. Now, some people argue about that too. Like, your job is not to hire a babysitter and then run away to shul. Your job is to be there with your children.
So there's ways of working around it. If that is so important to you, and especially when I first got married and I had my first atara, it was so hard for me to be at home and know everyone's davening and I'm at home, and like playing with a kid on the floor on Yom Kippur when I'm supposed to be davening. So
it's so hard for me too.
It took work. It really took work on my end. But I remember it was like the second year or whatever of me being home, and I still wasn't used to it. But I made it meaningful to myself. How I started singing out loud at home. So that was to me. Everyone has their own way of making it meaningful to themselves. Not help me. So that was to me. It made it, and then I even enjoy it more now because I'm singing my own pace, my own rhythm, my own thing, and I sing to myself. And my kids see it, and I think it's so important that they see that also.
I mean, that's a good point you focused on, that the kids see that you're okay. So for me, I can't say I agree, because it wouldn't work for me. I would agree with Peas, Love, and Carrots, and I've done that. So I remember in my small house, I had my lady.
I'm saying that's not always an option. That was when it wasn't an option. So then
Right,
last year
right,
it was an option.
right.
My kids were actually old enough to go to groups, and they actually went to groups the whole day in shul. And if that works, great.
Right,
But they
right.
weren't running in every minute and being loud in shul.
Right. Most shuls today have groups.
Right, but
Yeah.
but then there's kids who are in the shul
And
the whole time disrupting, and the moms
And
keep
you
saying
think those
"Shh."
moms need to go home?
The
even
moms
though-
need to go outside with their kid for a few minutes and then come back when their kid is quiet. Or like if they have a baby screaming in shul, the baby shouldn't be in shul.
I hear that. Okay. Yes.
Right?
Yes. 100%. 100%.
No, but I agree with you. Like if you could hire help and it works.
Yeah. So me, I'm also the type that I need to be there. I also need to hear the chazan. I need to hear the
Right.
I just need to feel it.
Right. So
And
Ne'ilah, I always
exactly.
try to go. Yom Kippur Ne'ilah, I love it, and that's something I always try to go to.
Uh-huh.
I always try to figure out a way to go in.
Okay. So that's a good time to just get like a quick babysitter at that moment. Like,
Right.
Even
It's
like
trying to figure out that time, but I
Right.
agree with you that like.
And by the way,
there's-
finding a babysitter is hard because everyone's davening at that
Right.
time. So my babysitters were never Jewish. I'm just saying,
Right.
like they weren't. But everybody has to do what they're comfortable with. 'Cause
like getting
it's not
their,
gonna,
like if your housekeeper can come in, even I don't know.
right. I've had that for many times. Many times I had
Also,
that.
my
And
husband.
yeah.
This is I don't know if this is a trick or something, but it worked out for us in our particular situation. My husband would go to an early minyan. He would go to like a 6 a.m. and he liked it. He liked to do that.
Mm-hmm.
He would go to 6 a.m. So he was done by like 11 for Yom Kippur. He was done early, so I was able to even catch a little portion in shul later. So we were able to do a swap. That worked for us at that during that year, but there are different ways of working around it.
Right.
But I don't believe kids should be in shul if they're going to be loud and disruptive. Obviously, if they're older and they're sitting there and they're learning,
Right.
it's different.
And you also don't believe. I just want to. I want to make sure that you're saying this. You because we don't want to get beef over this, but like you're not pushing your husband to go. He wanted to go. Like we're not telling our
that
husbands
happened
you
to
go
work.
so I could also go. 'cause
No.
we're not, like,
That's not what
reformed.
I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying
Yeah.
at all. I'm saying it worked out that year and even the year before, but it worked out
Yeah.
for us in that situation for him to go to the early minyan. He liked that. He liked to be done early so he can come home and rest.
Right.
So that worked out. So at least even if I have a housekeeper home, I have someone home with my kids.
Right. Okay, that's very powerful. Okay, something I'm going to go off on a little tangent here.
Okay.
Get me back on track if you feel like we shouldn't talk about this, but I feel like Rosh Hashanah and guests. So my husband has a policy, we don't have guests on Rosh Hashanah. It's a very important time. It's a very serious time. We're not laughing and joking. It's not a sad time,
Right.
but it's a time that we're being introspective. So we're not really like, engaging in like whatever behavior.
Right, I hear it.
But
People are also very careful about lashon hara and a lot of things.
exactly.
So
It's a. What do you feel? Do you guys do the same thing?
So
I
I
feel like
can't
a
say
lot
that
of-
we do the same thing. First of all, family. I don't know if that's considered guests, like having your
Yeah, so
parents
that's
and
been
your
hard. Yeah. So my husband would just want just our family, but it's so hard with Kibbutz of Aim. Like,
and also I feel like a lot of parents feel like this is a family bonding time.
exactly.
And-
But I feel like every holiday is. Come on.
I know, but
I
it's
always
like the
tell
Seder and like having everything.
What do you mean? We have
Like-
the Seder, we have Hanukkah, we have Sukkot.
Right, I'm saying the Rosh Hashanah Seder, like they want to have it with a family. They want to be together, especially if you have a parents who are just like them and they're going to be alone. That's like you can't just
I hear.
leave them out. Like you feel
I hear.
bad.
So we're doing that because we have parents, obviously. But if it were up to us, we would just have nobody.
You would,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I agree with the not having guests part, but like I'm saying family is
it's
different.
like a little
I don't
bit.
know.
Yeah, it's a little trickier.
It's different. Yeah.
Okay, so Tikva, let's talk about some takeaways that we have from this podcast.
So we originally started out with the evolution of tefillah in the beginning of the podcast. So our takeaway is that tefillah has changed because the situation we're in changed.
Right.
We can't change that. We can't
Right.
change the fact that we have technology, we have all this stuff. Things have changed.
Right.
A takeaway is, first of all, maybe start learning more about tefillah.
Okay.
And also, you do tefillah according to
How it works for you.
Exactly.
So learn learn the technique that it works for you and just pursue it that way.
and incorporating it in your own life. Like if it's just carrying a tehillim wherever you go. Some people that's how they connect.
Right. And some people write and journal and some people just talk with their mouth,
Right.
however it is. So that's number one takeaway. What other takeaways do we have? Kids programs. Just, I guess, be sensitive to people around like Tikva Shul because she doesn't want to be disturbed.
I'm like that annoying person in the front of the shul saying shh. I'm like shushing everyone.
Yeah, so I would say be cautious and be careful when you if you take your kids to shul, but also just know that take use of these kid programs Pay membership to a shul that you normally don't go to if they have a
shul
yeah,
program.
just for that, you know.
And
they
shul
have-
programs nowadays, by the way, are not, I don't know, in LA, they are crazy. They have like entertainers the whole day.
Yeah,
They are
right.
not like what they used to be of just sticking a million kids in a shul and
Right.
saying, here's some popcorn and bamba. And
Right. And if that doesn't work, if you don't have that option, then do what Tikva does and sing at home. That wouldn't work for me, but okay. And then
or hiring help if you can.
hiring help.
Depending on, yes.
Right. And make sure, by the way, your kids are well fed, right?
That really helps, yeah.
Because we're so hungry.
Oh,
feel
can I
like
throw
when-
in a hack?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yom Kippur, I always make a cholent the night
interesting.
before.
Oh, I like that.
The day before, I throw in a cholent and I put hot dogs in the cholent because my kids love hot dogs.
Ah.
Throw hot dogs in the cholent and then it's warm throughout the whole day. And you can't cook, you know? You can't cook on Yom Kippur.
Oh. And they're not like, ew, it's chillin'. Like,
No.
it's not Shabbos.
And it's hot dogs. There's hot dogs in it. You got to
Okay,
put the
I'll
hot
try
dogs in
that.
there.
Okay.
And also I throw in some eggs. I throw in things that I know my kids will eat.
Okay.
My younger kids like eggs. My older ones don't. But I throw the hot dogs and then they'll eat it.
Okay, I like that.
And that's like a filling.
I like that. I like that. Okay, that's very good. It stays up the whole day, so it's good. I like that.
Yeah.
So make sure they're
Or even like a
well-fed.
soup. Something in the crock pot. Okay.
Right. Okay, I love that.
Making sure they're well fed, yes. And buying like just fun like snacks for them before also really helps. Like
Yeah.
going to a kosher store, spending a little bit more than you normally would on those
Right.
like fancier treats.
Right.
It keeps them
Okay.
entertained for longer.
Yes. And I think we touched up on everything here, right?
Yeah, so thank you so much for tuning in and listening to our podcast today. We hope you have a meaningful Rosh Hashanah.
And an easy fast, and stay tuned for our next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to our Mommy Life Squad podcast.
And stay tuned for the next episode.